My ex-wife took the house in the divorce, so I bought the one right next to it and made her regret everything. I used to believe in love and marriage. That's what they tell you growing up, right? Find a good partner, build a life together, support each other. That's exactly what I thought I was doing with Sabrina. I met Sabrina when we were both in our mid-20s. She was charming, confident, and had this way of making you feel like the most important person in the world. I fell hard, and within 2 years, we were married. At first, everything seemed perfect. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. I had a stable job as a project manager in a construction firm, and she worked as a real estate agent. Our incomes weren't sky high, but together we had a good life. Then we bought the house. It was a beautiful 2-story home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. I had saved for years for the down payment, and when we finally moved in, I felt like I had achieved something real. For a while, things were good. But then, things changed. Sabrina had always been a little materialistic, but I never thought much of it. She liked nice things, designer handbags, expensive brunches, trendy vacations, but I figured, hey, if we can afford it within reason, why not? But it didn't stop there. It started with complaints about the house. It's nice, but don't you think we should have gone for something bigger? The kitchen is kind of outdated. Maybe we should renovate. My friend's husband just bought her a brand new car. When are we going to upgrade ours? I'd always respond practically, telling her we needed to save, that we couldn't afford reckless spending. I thought I was being responsible. To her, I was being boring. The fight started small, annoyed comments, passive-aggressive remarks, but over time, they grew into full-on arguments. And then one day, she just gave up on arguing. She started pulling away. She stopped planning date nights. She spent more time out with her friends, all of whom were married to wealthier men, investment bankers, surgeons, corporate lawyers. One night, she came home from a party drunk and mumbled something that hit me like a truck. I should have married someone more ambitious. She passed out before I could respond. But I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the biggest fool in the world. A month later, she blindsided me with divorce papers. No discussion, no attempt at counseling, just cold, clinical papers served while I was eating breakfast. I looked up at her stunned. "Are you serious?" She sighed like she was tired of dealing with me. "Nathan, I just can't do this anymore. You're too comfortable. You don't want more out of life." I was speechless. I wasn't abusive. I wasn't unfaithful. I wasn't irresponsible. My only crime was not being rich enough. And then came the real betrayal. She hired a cutthroat lawyer and went after everything. She wanted the house. She wanted spousal support despite having a job. She even tried to claim part of my retirement savings. I fought back as hard as I could. I hired my own lawyer, prepared my case, and walked into court ready to defend what was mine. But Sabrina? She knew how to play dirty. She painted herself as the victim. Said she had supported me emotionally while I worked and deserved compensation. Said she invested her time into making the house a home. Her lawyer was ruthless, digging into every weakness. And the judge? Well, the judge saw a woman claiming financial need and a man who could afford to start over. The ruling came down. She got the house. I sat there, gripping the table so hard my knuckles turned white, while she smirked across the courtroom. Like she had won. Like she had played the game better. I was forced to move out. The home I had worked so hard for, the one I had dreamed of owning for years, was now hers. And she wasn't even sad about the marriage ending. She was just happy she won. I found myself in a small rental apartment, staring at the blank walls, trying to figure out where the hell everything went wrong. Sabrina moved on instantly. Within months, she was dating a corporate lawyer, living the high life, posting Instagram stories in 5-star restaurants. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my barely furnished apartment, eating takeout, watching my old house in the background of her posts. I told myself to move on, to focus on my job, to rebuild. But I'll be honest, I wasn't over it. I hated how easily she won, how she got to keep the house I paid for while I was left starting from scratch. And then, life threw me a wild card. One day, I got a call from a lawyer. Apparently, my great-uncle had passed away, a distant relative I barely knew, and he left everything to me. It was a fortune, multiple properties, a massive financial portfolio, enough money to do whatever I wanted. At first, I just sat there, stunned. And then I realized I had a golden opportunity. Because guess what? The house next door to my ex-wife was up for sale. I didn't hesitate. I bought it immediately. Not because I needed a house, not because I wanted to live there, but because I wanted to watch her squirm. The day I moved in, I made sure to arrive in style. Expensive movers, high-end furniture deliveries, a brand new car in the driveway, and when I stepped out onto my front porch, Sabrina was standing in her yard, staring at me like she had seen a ghost. Her expression? Priceless. I'll never forget Sabrina's face when she saw me standing in the driveway of the house right next to hers. It was like she had just seen a ghost, except instead of fear, her expression flickered between shock, confusion, and pure dread. She probably thought she was hallucinating. Maybe I was just helping a friend move in. Nope. I made sure she saw the luxury movers unloading my furniture. High-end, sleek, far nicer than what we had when we were married. I made sure she saw the brand new car in my driveway. A Porsche. The kind of car she used to beg me to buy. And when she finally worked up the nerve to walk over and say something, I just smiled. "Hey, neighbor." She didn't even reply. She just stood there, stunned, mouth slightly open. And that's when I knew. I had her exactly where I wanted her. Phase 1. Establishing dominance. Moving in next to my ex-wife wasn't just about being petty. It was about watching her realize she had made the worst mistake of her life. Sabrina spent years thinking I was beneath her, that I wasn't ambitious enough, that I was just a stepping stone to something better. Now, she was stuck in the same place, and I had leveled up. At first, she tried to act like she didn't care. I could tell she was desperate to know where I got the money to afford the house, but she refused to ask. Instead, she tried to assert dominance. She'd throw extravagant get-togethers in her backyard, loud, flashy parties with her new corporate lawyer boyfriend, trying to make it look like she was still on top. But the thing about Sabrina, she never actually liked the people she surrounded herself with. She just wanted to impress them, and I made sure she couldn't. Phase 2. HOA warfare. Sabrina had fought tooth and nail to get a seat on the HOA board when we were together. She loved having power over the neighborhood. Who could paint their houses what colors? Who could put up decorations? Who was bringing down property values? So naturally, the first thing I did? I got myself elected to the HOA board. Legally. Fairly. With the help of every neighbor she had ever pissed off. And once I was in, I made sure every single one of her requests got denied. Wanted to redo her driveway? Denied. New patio extension? Doesn't meet HOA regulations. Bigger backyard fence? Not approved. She was fuming. One night she stormed over to my house and pounded on my door. I opened it slowly, taking my time. "Something wrong, Sabrina?" She crossed her arms, glaring. "Why the hell are you in the HOA?" I shrugged. Figured it'd be fun to get involved in the community. Her eyes narrowed. "You're doing this on purpose." I grinned. "No idea what you're talking about." And then I closed the door in her face. But I wasn't done yet. Phase 3. Social warfare. Sabrina had built her entire identity around being the queen of the neighborhood. She hosted wine nights, brunches, and threw charity events just to rub elbows with the local elites. But that only worked when people respected her. So I made sure they didn't. I started hosting my own gatherings. Casual, laid-back, genuinely fun events with good food and great company. And unlike her, people actually liked me. It wasn't long before the neighborhood shifted. Her former friends started preferring my parties. People stopped showing up to hers. She tried doubling down, throwing even more extravagant events. But the problem was, without me paying the bills, she was struggling, and it was starting to show. Phase 4. Hitting her where it hurts. Sabrina had been living large, thinking she could maintain the same lifestyle without my income. But luxury wasn't cheap. Her corporate lawyer boyfriend turned out to be a cheapskate. He wasn't funding her shopping sprees, and her real estate commissions were drying up. Then came the cherry on top. Sabrina had been planning a massive home renovation. It was supposed to be her big statement, a way to show off that she was still doing better than me. But renovations require permits, and permits need HOA approval. Which meant me. I sat in the next HOA meeting, watching her squirm in her seat as her application came up. She tried buttering up the board, talking about how her renovation would increase property values for everyone. I let her talk, let her feel hopeful. Then when the vote came down, I simply said, "I vote no." And since I had already convinced the others, the motion was denied. She was livid. And I wasn't even done yet. At this point, Sabrina was desperate. She was losing money. She had lost her influence in the neighborhood. And worst of all, she had lost control. I could see it in the way she avoided looking at me whenever we crossed paths, the way her new boyfriend barely showed up anymore. Then, one evening, I overheard her on the phone in her backyard. She was arguing with someone. And then I heard the words that sealed her fate. "I don't care what it takes, I need to sell this house. Fast." I stood there letting the words sink in. And I smiled, because I already knew exactly what was coming next. Sabrina was unraveling. The once smug, confident woman who kicked me out of my own home was now pacing her backyard, panicking over the phone. She had tried everything, winning the HOA war, throwing high-end parties, even trying to act like my success didn't bother her. But reality was hitting her hard. She couldn't afford to keep up with the lifestyle she once flaunted, and now, I knew for certain, she was planning to sell the house. The same house she fought so hard for. The same house she smugly smiled about in court. I wasn't about to let her escape that easily, because this was my moment. Over the next week, I noticed real estate agents coming and going. Sabrina wasn't wasting time. She needed out. She even had an open house event, desperate to attract buyers. And I made sure to ruin it. The night before the open house, I had contractors start emergency renovations on my home. Loud drilling, hammering, and cutting sounds from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. I let my lawn accidentally flood, making the shared property line look like a swamp. I hosted a massive backyard barbecue that just so happened to have half the neighborhood in my yard, taking up all the nearby parking spaces. Potential buyers walked in excited and walked out looking disgusted. Sabrina was furious. I could see it in her face every time she caught sight of me. But she still didn't know that I had already made my move. A few days later, I saw a new for sale sign in her yard. Except this time, there was a red sticker underneath. Price reduced. I actually laughed. She was bleeding money. And then, I called her real estate agent, under a different name of course, a fake buyer. Someone interested in the property. I played along for weeks, lowballing offers, pretending to negotiate, stringing her along while she got more and more desperate. Then, at the very last moment, I disappeared. And when she was truly out of options, that's when I made my move. I had already been in contact with the bank. Sabrina had been missing mortgage payments. She had overstretched herself financially, trying to live like she was still a queen. The house was on the verge of foreclosure. So I did the only logical thing. I bought it. Not from her, from the bank, at a disgustingly low price. Sabrina, she had no idea. 2 weeks later, I saw her standing in her driveway, pacing on the phone. Something was wrong, and I already knew what. She had just received the final notice. The house was sold. She no longer owned the home she stole from me, and she was about to find out who the new owner was. I walked over, casual as ever. She turned, already glaring, probably assuming I was coming to gloat. Instead, I pulled a single piece of paper from my jacket, a property deed, with my name on it. Her face drained of color. I smiled. "You're standing on my property, Sabrina." Silence. For the first time in years, she was speechless. Then came the stuttering, the excuses, the bargaining. "Wait, Nathan, just listen. This doesn't have to be like this." I raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" She swallowed hard. We were married once. We don't have to be enemies." I tilted my head. "You're right, so I'll give you a few options." I pulled out a printed eviction notice. Option 1, she moves out willingly. Option 2, the sheriff removes her. Her lips trembled. You can't do this." I grinned. "Oh, I can," and I did. For the next few days, she tried everything. She showed up at my door, pretending to be friendly. She left voicemails filled with fake apologies. Then came the desperation texts. "Can we talk? Please? I made mistakes, but we don't have to do this. I have nowhere else to go." That last one? I sent back a single reply. "Not my problem. Should have thought about that before taking my house." 2 weeks later, I watched from my porch as she packed her things. She tried to act like it wasn't killing her, but I saw the moment she broke. The moment she realized she had nothing. I didn't watch her leave. By the time the moving truck pulled out of the driveway, I was inside, pouring myself a drink. I didn't need to see her drive away to know it was over. The house, the one she had stolen, the one she thought would be her trophy, was finally mine again. And this time there was no one left to take it from me. It felt different now. The walls weren't haunted by memories of what we used to be. The house no longer felt like a battlefield, like something I had to fight for. It was just home. Quiet. Peaceful. Mine. Sabrina didn't linger in town. She didn't have the money to stay in the neighborhood, and she certainly didn't have the reputation to keep up appearances. Whatever power she had once held over our social circle had vanished the moment she lost the house. I never went looking for updates about her life, but the occasional whispers made their way back to me. She was renting a small apartment, nothing like the home she had fought for so viciously. Her lawyer boyfriend had moved on, probably realizing she wasn't as valuable without a fancy house and high-status connections. She was just another woman who overplayed her hand and lost. I had spent so much time playing this long game, setting the pieces in place, making sure she got what she deserved. No more passive-aggressive comments. No more silent resentment at the dinner table. No more feeling like I wasn't enough for someone who was never satisfied. I could finally live without waiting for the next fight, the next insult, the next inevitable disappointment. I wasn't bitter, I wasn't angry, I was just done. And that was the best feeling in the world.